Hello, this is Age of Bronze, a mod for Rome 2 Total War. It takes the game and transforms it into, as you'd guess, the Bronze Age. I'm going to have a custom battle in this video. It will be Assyria versus Babylon. The game begins with some cheering Assyrian swordsmen. The Swords of Nineveh is the general's unit of this army, which has many swordsmen, many spears, and some chariots. Over across the field, the ancient rival of Assyria, Babylonia, known in-game as Babylon. Their own general is the Kassite noble spearmen. That is the general's unit. They also have plenty of spears, archers, as well as that weapon central to ancient warfare, the chariot. They will be formidable adversaries as these two ancient rivals will duke it out on this desert battlefield. The Assyrian chariots move forward at a quick pace toward the Babylonian line to harass them with their ranged projectiles. And the Babylonians may send their own chariots forward as well, and we will have a clash between the two. And they are moving forward to meet them. And they have a charge right into the chariots. The Assyrian chariots were a lot more stationary than their Babylonian counterparts, who move in on their position. And this will do some damage to both sides, and some arrows are coming in from the Babylonians, as well as some rocks from some slingers. And there is another charge into the other unit of the Assyrian chariots. They get off one volley into the Babylonians. This particular group of Assyrian chariots are the scythe chariots. They have very pointed curved blades on their wheels, but those will not be very handy if they are not charging towards something. So they lose a lot of their own chariots in the charge from Babylon. And Babylon is just having a field day with the Assyrian chariots, who just seem slow to react and deal with them. Over on the Assyrian right, the Amorite skirmishers of the Assyrians are ran into by their own chariots. Babylonian chariots in pursuit of their counterparts crash into the skirmishers instead, who greet the attackers with sword and shield and charge into them, giving them a brutal fight. With these chariots now slowed down, they will not be of much use. They are very fragile weapons, as has been proven thus far. The Assyrian army is beginning a general advance themselves to try and take out any remaining chariots. And over on the left, the Swords of Nineveh are advancing alongside their army to give battle. The chariots of the Babylonians are now slowed down themselves and stationary for the most part. They are vulnerable to attack from melee troops, and a lot of chariots have been cut down on both sides. Without these chariots, both sides have lost any sort of rapid responding force that would be able to slam into the rear of their opponent. The battle will now be determined by the best infantry and the best ranged units. Both of the infantry lines on Assyria and Babylon's side have now entered into melee with one another. On the Assyrian left flank, the Babylonian right flank, it's looking like a victory for Babylon, as they have seemed to have overwhelmed the light force that was sent there. Looking on the tactical map, the Babylonians are doing best on the Assyrian left. In the center, it looks like a victory for the Assyrians. On the right, it looks like a victory for the Assyrians. So it's basically going to become a whirlpool, and the two will eventually crash into each other like that if the current situation continues, which will be an interesting sight if it was to happen. So the battle is just dragging on here with these levies doing their best, even though they are essentially some of the lightest troops they can field and the lightest equipped, but that will have to do. On the center, the Swords of Nineveh are hitting down hard on the Babylonian units sent their way. They look to be more lightly armored than their Assyrian counterparts, which means with better weapons and better armor, the Assyrians will be victorious here eventually, even though it will take some time for now. A few units of the Babylonians are en route. There is only one unit here to hold off, like I suppose 2 or 3 units or more. In the center part of the line, the Assyrians are giving no quarter to their Babylonian opponents. The Babylonians over on their left flank, right flank, do have archers shooting in to some of the engaged Assyrians. There's a unit here just looking on at the Babylonians as they do their work for whatever reason. I don't know, I guess they're impressed. And the Mesopotamian levies of the Babylonians are doing their part on the right, but again, as in the center, they will eventually be overwhelmed. A group of, I think, provincial levies goes by them and pursues the archers to make sure they are unable to get into a position to engage and fire down their volleys into the conflicting Assyrians who are busy fighting the Babylonian infantry. Over on the Assyrian left, the Babylonian right, the overwhelmed Mesopotamian levies collapse, freeing up the Babylonian soldiers that were fighting against them, who immediately move on to the center line, where the swords of Nineveh, the general unit of the Assyrians, fights off the Babylonian commander unit, the Kassite noble spearmen. They are both well armored and well equipped, so it will be a very rough fight for these well-equipped warriors, and if the general of either side should die, it would be a brutal blow to morale for both of these armies. In the center, the Babylonians are basically gone, freeing up the Assyrians to go aid their commander, hopefully. They have to choose which direction to go, apparently. Oh, and they choose. They go back toward their commander and have a second thought on going that direction, and they go off that way. And on the right, the Assyrian right, there's barely any resistance left, just in the form of some archers. The battle will be determined in the center, and over in the Assyrian line, way back, a Babylonian group of spearmen have snuck through to attack some of the Assyrian archers. They are taking some casualties from another unit that managed to sneak away from them, but they are keeping the Assyrians from being very useful on the extreme left Assyrian flank. And it's a brutal brawl. Just tons of well-equipped units with their bronze weapons just cleaving and chopping at one another. Some of the units involved are showing signs of fatigue, and the mounting casualties will eventually lead to some of them routing and leaving the battle. A few of the Babylonian soldiers are being chased off out of the big blob into a smaller little conflict. You can see one brave Assyrian spearman charging out at this group who seems to be withdrawing. And it is just a slow attritional fight between the two. A little distance away from the main conflict, some Babylonian Gushian axemen are battling themselves a group of Assyrians. They are impressively equipped with these huge axes, but they are outnumbered, so they will be wavering and break pretty soon, I'd say. But they will do some good damage before they would do that. And there they go. They're running away. They're shattered. They will not be coming back. They are routed, and those units will be freed up to go attack the Babylonians. These impressive bowmen, the bowmen of Ashur of the Assyrians, are attacking any remaining archers the Babylonians may have, or slingers. They are just barraging them and ensuring that they too will not be able to get into any real position. This is a group of looks to be spearmen, and they are just getting shot even with those shields up. Some slingers try to move in to position to be helpful, but it does not seem to matter. A group of Babylonian spears, a Babylonian unit at least, is breaking off, but the main core group is still fighting, and it is a slow struggle. The Babylonians are slowly flaking away, taking damage, but on that side, on that note, the Assyrians themselves are taking casualties as well. It is not without saying the Babylonians are not exactly giving up, but it's just a slow brawl. I've said this a million times already, I know, but it is just big blob, very slow progress between the two. They're just slugging it out, hitting each other and stabbing one another with their weapons, spears, swords, whatever they got. A big group of Babylonians do retreat. The Babylonians do withdraw. I think they're regrouping. One unit has broke off, and another unit from the south is still fighting. They do not seem to have gotten the message and are engaging the Assyrians. But they are now outnumbered as their comrades, their brothers in arms, have retreated off to another direction. We'll see what they have to do. And so these group of Babylonians being shot at by archers will be slowly outnumbered. One group of levies, it looks like, chases after the general unit of the Babylonians, fighting them. They are alone as the others are a little bit preoccupied with that group who joined the battle at a later time. And they are taking casualties themselves. They are not as well equipped, well armed, and it is just mounting up a lot of damage for them. And it is just not looking to be very effective at all. So the Assyrians have finished off that group who joined the battle rather late, to be honest. They did not do very good. They took some casualties. I think they did a little bit of damage, and then they left. By left, I mean routed in terror. So the Assyrians are freed up. Tons of soldiers they have. One unit regroups from the Babylonians and immediately run into the charging horde of the Assyrians. That is some bad timing on Babylon's part, but it does not look like a victory for Babylon at this stage. They are outnumbered, Their main melee has been lost. The only thing remaining really to fight in the battle is a group of spearmen and the Kassite noble spearmen that the general is a part of. But they will not give up easily, as said before. They are fighting hard, but they are getting tired. So are the Assyrians, for that matter. They have no reserves. Neither army does. They were just all crammed into a battle against one another. There was no reserves, so they're just fighting like that. And so, it's just a matter of time before the Babylonians will take enough damage and break. It's just a matter of seeing how much damage Babylon can do before that event happens. They are definitely trading out every piece of damage they take on the Assyrians. They return more than they lose, I'd say. The Babylonians, another unit rejoins the fray. Looks like some swordsmen. But again, outnumbered. They've lost a lot of units before. Looks like some lightly equipped warriors, it seems. Swords of Nineveh. One unit is routing, it appears. Yeah, 2 units are routing. That's 2. And now I think it's just the general left who is getting shot at by some arrows from some bowmen over on a hill, which I'm sure getting shot at by some arrows while fighting in a melee fight is not going to get very nice. And these slingers from Babylon continue on somehow. They're just throwing rocks and hurling them at the Assyrian archers. One unit looks like it's about to rout, but that is not the case. Babylon has some units rejoin, and they immediately flee. They know it would be a good idea after everything that's happened. So Babylon just has the general left. He may be running very soon, which it appears he has. I think the Syrian general did fall, but so did the Babylonian general. Soldiers are jumping for cheer. The battle is over. If you want to try out this mod, link is in the description. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.